Good morning, all of you. Is the screen visible?
Okay. Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay, so we'll start file handling. So, first of all, what is a file? What is the definition of a file? How is it different from, uh, uh, for example, in our programming, in Python programming or Java programming or whatever programming language we use, we store data in a program temporarily, so that will be stored in the main memory of your computer. So what do you mean by main memory? The RAM of the computer, right? And you know that RAM is a volatile memory. As long as there is power supply to it, the contents that are stored in that memory will be existing. But once the power supply is gone, automatically the contents will be erased. So when you restart your computer again, so the previous contents will not exist in the RAM. So all the data that we are storing in our program is temporary. Why? Because we are storing that data inside a RAM, which is also called as the primary memory or main memory of a computer. But what if you want to store data in a permanent basis? We cannot store data permanently on a RAM, so we need to store that on a secondary memory device like your hard disk of your computer, right? So what is a file means? A file is nothing but some space on this secondary memory device where some group of related information is stored. So that can be a definition of the file. So when you say space, what do you mean by space? Some amount of memory, memory space on your hard disk or any other secondary memory device. So when I say when I use the term disk, it refers to any secondary memory device. It can be a hard disk drive, it can be a magnetic disk, it can be a compact disk or a digital versatile disk, all the DVDs, CDs, all these things, right? So they are all non-volatile memory devices. So we can store data permanently on these devices unless we ourselves delete those content. They'll not be deleted. For example, you're storing some files, some programs on your computer laptop, right? So where are they being stored? They are being stored on the hard disk of your computer. So it is a secondary memory device and it is a permanent storage. So now there is a file called uh, fur.py. So this is also an example of a file. So uh, when you open this file, you are able to read it and all these things, right? So you have some program to open it and read the content from that file. Similarly, if you want to write something, you will have a program for writing that content into that file. But that programs are provided to us by the operating system of the computer. Say now if I open a new notepad, right? So I can create a file now. New file can be created by pressing Ctrl S. It will ask me to enter some name and give some extension to that file and save it. So this is how you are creating a file. But what is happening in the background? There is some program which will do all these tasks for us. Whenever you press Ctrl S, automatically a program executes and that program will save a file, will create a file with whatever name you mentioned here in this save as window, and with whatever type you mention, whether it is a .py file, .txt file. By default it will store it in the form of .txt file. So in whichever extension you give, using that extension the file will be created automatically. So we have such programs which are part of our operating system, so they'll take care of all those things, right? So similarly, we can write some programs in Python programming for performing the same task on our own. So we can write a program for creating a file, reading a file content, writing some new content into the file, or appending some content into the file. All these things you can do using a uh, Python programming concept. So what you need to know here is what are the various predefined functions that are available to us in order for us to create these files and write the content into the file and read content from the file. But before going to that, now as you know what is a definition for file, a space on a disk where a group of related information is stored. What do you mean by group of? So definitely the content will have group of information, not a single information, and it is a related information. Say for example, I'm writing a program for finding a factorial of a given number. So I'll save that for program in .py extension, right, in a file with .py extension. So all that data that is stored in that file, all that information that is stored in that file is all related to each other. They are all together collectively working for computing the factorial of a given number, right? So that's why we say group of related information. So now that you understood the definition of a file, uh, let us discuss about types of files. Files can be classified into two types. The first one is text files. First one is text files and second one is binary files. So what do you mean by text files and what do you mean by binary files? A text file will be represented in the form of characters, whereas a binary file will be represented in the form of bytes. So what do you mean by this characters and bytes? So if it is a text file, you can open that file and view the content, whatever it is there, you will be able to understand that content when you open that file. But when you open a binary file, you will find some zeros and ones or some special symbols which you don't actually understand. When you open a .exe file or even a java class file, you open it and see, you'll not be able to understand those files, content of the file. The .java file, you will be able to understand what is written in that .java file. Even in .py file also, you'll be able to understand what is written in it. Even in a text file also, right, .txt file, if you create, you will be able to see everything. So all these .java files, .py files, everything, and .txt files, all these come under text files category. So any file which you can open it and see the contents of that file and read the content, and you will be able to understand what is that content in that file, then such files are nothing but text files. And coming to binary files, binary files, when you open them, they'll be in the form of zeros and ones, a sequence of bytes, and you'll not understand what is the meaning of it, right? Such files are called as binary files. We don't operate on binary files because binary files are they are similar to executable files. So if you try to modify them and delete them, your application that you're using may not work. So we'll deal only with text files, right? So we'll be opening text files, we'll be reading text files, we'll be writing into text files, we'll append into the text files. All these things we'll do, but will not work on binary files. So we'll consider only text files, right? So Python provides us with different functions, predefined functions, using which you can read the content from the file, write the content into the file, and append content into the file. So what is the difference between reading, writing, and appending? That you need to understand first. So read the file means what? You will be able to open the file and you can only extract the content that is already there in that file, but you cannot modify that file, change the content of the file, or delete the content of the file, right? So that is read operation. And coming to write operation means if the file already exists, that file will be opened for write operation. If it does not exist, a new file will be created and that file will be opened for write operation. And when you perform write operation, if it is an existing file, any previous content is there, that content will be automatically erased and the new content that you are trying to write will be replacing the old content. So that is write operation. So for these two operations, for read operation and for write operation, we have different modes. That means we need to open the file first, right? And then perform some read or write operation, and then again close the file. So these are the steps that we need to follow in order to perform any manipulation on the file. So if you want to perform any operations on the file, you need to follow these three steps. First, you need to open the file, then perform whatever operation you want to perform, whether you want to perform read operation, write operation, or append operation, whatever it is. You need to perform that operation, and after the operation is completed, then you need to close the file. So these are the three steps that will be involved in manipulating the files. But when you open the file, there will be something called mode. So you can open a file in different modes. So based on which mode you are opening that file, you will be permitted to do only specific operation. Say for example, you are opening the file in read mode, which we represent it as R. Then you can only perform read operation. That means you can open the file and extract the content from that file. That's it. You cannot modify that file. That means you cannot delete any existing content and add new content. So that is not possible. So that is read mode. And coming to write mode, the write mode will allow you to perform only write operation. You will not be able to perform read operation. Okay, so you'll be able to perform only write operation. And when you perform write operation, if the file is an old file, existing file, then the old content in that file will be erased and the new content will be written into that file. So that is write mode. And coming to uh, uh, append mode, in append mode, which is represented as A, what you can do is you can open an existing file. You can open an existing file, and that file contains some data already. You can write some new content at the end of the file. The previous content will remain as it is. You can add new content at the ending of the file. So that is called as append mode. This is called as append mode. So you can open the files in any of these modes by using a predefined function in Python called open function. Open function. So just like in C language, if you have learned file handling in C language, you have a function called fopen function, right? Which takes two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the file which you want to open, and second parameter is a string which will be nothing but the mode in which you want to open that file. Whether you want to open it read mode, write mode, append mode, R plus mode, W plus mode, A plus mode. So you know about all these modes in C language, right? The same modes you have even in Python also. Read mode, read plus mode, W mode, that is write mode plus, and W plus mode, append mode and append plus mode. So all these six modes which are there in C language, they are also there in Python programming, right? So the function that we have to use for opening the file is open function. So what is the function? Open function. So this open function, what is it going to return once it is called means it will open that file that you mentioned in the first parameter in whatever mode you mentioned in the second parameter. In that mode, it will open that file and it will return a file object. It will return a file object. So you have to write it like this: f is equal to open file name comma mode. So then now f will store a file object. So using that file object, you can refer to the file that you opened from here onwards, right? So using this file object, you can call some methods which are defined in Python, the predefined methods or functions, using which you can perform read and write operations. So you have some functions called three different functions for performing read operation and two different functions for performing write operation. So the three different functions for performing read operation are read function, read line function, and read lines function. And coming to write operation, you have write function and write lines function, right? So Python provides us with these five functions to perform read and write operation. Append operation can be done using the same write function, because appending is nothing but writing new content at the end of the file. So you can use the same write method for performing append operation also, write and write line methods. For performing read operations, you can use any of these three methods. So what is the difference between this read line and read lines method, write method and write lines method? So you can understand that when you write a program. I'll tell you what are the parameters that we need to use for this read method, read function, read line function, read line functions, write function, and write lines function. Okay. So for now, let us see an example program which will perform a write operation. See, all my file programs are placed in a folder called files folder in D drive. In D drive, you have Python folder, and Python folder has another subfolder called files. So there, all my file related programs .py files, which will perform manipulation on files, uh, are stored, right? So my current working directory will be this one. This will be my current working directory in D drive, Python, and Python contains another subdirectory called files. Okay, so let me first start with write operation. So look at this program. So the first line itself, I'm not using any classes and objects. Forget about that object oriented programming concepts. So we'll come back to normal simple Python programming. So in this program, I'm using the open function to open a file called myfile.txt. In which mode? In write mode. So you can see the second parameter w, which means you are opening this file in write mode. So I've saved this file as fwrite.py. The file name is fwrite.py. Okay, and and this open function, what it returns after successfully opening the file, it returns a file object. So that file object I gave it as name file1. Okay, so now file1 refers to myfile.txt file. So because you are opening it in a write mode, if the file already exists, then that file will be opened. If the file does not exist, then the file will be created and opened. But where this file will be opened, where you're going to search, where this open function is going to search for the file, in current directory, in current working directory. So wherever your program, this fwrite.py is stored, in that directory it is going to search. So look at this directory. Do we have that file called myfile.txt? The list of files I'll show you: dir, fappend, file info, for, f position, f read, uh, f rename, fwr, fwrite, list dir, split width. So these are the files you have. Do we have the file myfile.txt? It is not there. So because this file is not there, when you run this program, this file will be created and opened in write mode. Okay, if it is already present, then it will directly open it, but if it is not present, it will open it in a write mode by creating it, and it will open it in write mode. Okay, so in the next line I'm creating a list L. So you know how to create a Python list, right? So I'm creating a Python list. I'm storing three different strings. I want these three strings to be stored in three different lines. I don't want them to be stored in a single line. So I'm giving a backslash n at the end of each string that I used as an item in this list. So the first item of the list is this is Delhi, and at the end you have a backslash n. The list will contain this first string, and second string is nothing but this is Paris, ending with a backslash n, and third item is nothing but this is London, ending also with a backslash n character. But when you write this list into the file will contain the content in three different lines, because you're using backslash n in each and every item of the list. Okay, so how to write this list of items into the file? So now if you want to refer to the file, you have to use the file object that is written by the open function. So what is the file object? File1. So you need to call the write function, which is used for writing content into the file, by using that file object file1. File1 dot write. Okay, so first what I am writing, I am simply writing a hello string and giving a backslash n. So that means after writing this hello string, the cursor will go to the next line of the file. So the first line will be a simple hello message, and the cursor will be moving to the second line. Then after that what I am doing, again I am using another method, second method for writing. I am using write lines. Okay, so for write lines, I am passing what? A list. So what is the difference between write and write lines means? Write will allow you to write only one string. That means only one line of text into the file. But whereas write lines will allow you to write multiple lines of text into the string. Sorry, into the file. Right? So whatever lines you want to write into the file, you can store it first into a list, a Python list, and then simply pass that list as a parameter to this write lines. Then automatically all those lines that are part of that list in Python list will be written into the file as it is. Or else you can use that complete string also in that write method, write lines method, so that the next line character will take the cursor to the next line also, in that way also. But what I am doing is I am writing that content, I am storing that content in a list, and then passing that list as parameter to the write lines. So whatever content is there in that list, that will be written as it is into the uh, file myfile.txt. So how it will be written? It will display after hello, it will write this is Delhi, and the cursor goes to the next line, and then write this is Paris, and again the cursor goes to the next line and write this is London. So totally you will have four different lines written into this file, right? So the difference between write function and write lines function is, a write function is used only to write a single string, whereas write lines is used to write multiple lines of strings into the uh, file. Instead of using string, you can say use the term line. Write function is used to write only one line of content into the file, whereas write lines is used to write multiple lines of content into the file. So let us run this program. So you can observe after writing content, I am closing the file. This is mandatory. After you open the file and perform all the operation that you want to do, you have to close the file. Okay. So first observe there is no text file myfile.txt file in this directory. After I execute this program, the new file will be created and the content will be written. So let us run it. So you will not get any output here on the console because the file will be created and opened and the content will be written into the file. So you have to go to that folder and check. See, my file is created now. So you have 4 lines of text written into that file. So this is how you write uh, any lines of data into a file by opening the file in write mode. So now what I'll do is I'll put these 2 lines in comments, the list and even the write lines function. I'll put it in comment. I'll use only write function. So even if you give \n, that is okay. So what is the difference between write and write lines? You're not finding any difference, right? Write is displaying the content in 2 lines. So let me remove this one. So it is written the entire string that we give as parameter to that write method. So now it is writing in different lines, same content, it is written in different lines. So what is the difference you observe? If you use write method or write function, you are able to see slight gap in front of the each line, the new line that you created like this, right? But when you use write lines, it will not, it will remove that gap. It will write, it will start writing that content from the beginning of the line. Though you can use that write function to write multiple lines of text into the file, at times when you use more and more backslash and characters at each and every line, there will be a beginning space given to each line, right? So that is the only difference you can find with write method and write lines method. So if you want to avoid that all those things, then you need to use write lines method. And what I'm passing as parameter to the write line method, a list. So let us check whether I'll be able to pass a list as a parameter to the write method. So what must be the argument for the write method? It must be a string. It cannot be a list. But coming to write lines will allow you to uh, pass a list of items, and it will write all the list strings that are stored, all the items that are stored in that list into that file. But write will not allow it. So now let me put this write in comment. Instead of passing the list L, let me write. So let us open that file and check it. So it will allow you, the write lines function or method will allow you to pass both strings as well as list. So that is the advantage with write lines. Whereas using a write function, what you can do, you can only pass a string. So the difference and the complexity in write and write lines is, in a write method, uh, you can only pass a string, and if you want to pass multiple lines of data, multiple lines of text, then can you do that? You have to pass that entire line, multiple lines of text as a parameter to this write method, right? By enclosing it in double quotes like this, you have to pass that multiple lines of text. It is not that it is not going to write multiple lines, it will write, but you need to, if that if your string that you're writing into the file contains a paragraph containing some 10 lines or 20 lines of text, then what you need to do, can you write it, can you put it in this write function as parameter, then your program will look awkward, right? So instead of that, you can use write lines function, where write lines function will receive both strings as well as list. But list also, you may think that we need to write that list also in this way, right? But always the list will not be defined in a predefined manner like this. So you can append new content to the list also, right? Say for example, I can create an empty list like this. Then, so using a for loop, you can create a first an empty list and then append items to that list dynamically, right? So if a list is created in this way, then the list may contain a large, huge amount of data, and you will not be writing that huge amount of data when you create a list like this here inside the square brackets, right? So in that case, this write lines method will be very useful, because the content is not stored directly in the list here in our program. Instead, dynamically it is generated by running the program. The user will be giving some input and that will be appended to the list, and you can pass that simple list as a parameter to this write lines method. Then automatically whatever content is there in that list will be written into the file. So that is the advantage with write lines method. So now if I run this program, the loop will repeat for 5 times, starting from 1 to 5. The loop will repeat 5 times, and each time the loop is repeated, the input function will prompt the user to enter some line of text, and that line will be stored in this line variable, and then line is appended to the list. So for more convenience, let us give a print statement here. So now this 5 lines of text will be written and stored into the list, and list is passed into the as a parameter to the write lines method. So So the write lines method will write that list into the file. So now if you open that file, so this will contain the content like this, a single line of content, because we didn't use any backslash and anything anywhere. So it will be display, it will be written in a single line. If you use backslash n, then automatically the line will it will be displayed in the second line. So let us do that by running once again. So backslash n will not be interpreted as a new line character when you give it from the console. So when you give it from the console, it will not be considered. So now each of the string that we passed as parameter uh, is displayed in a new line. So why? Because while appending the line of text to the list, we are concatenating with that line with a backslash n character. So then the new line character will be considered. So when you take the input from the console, that new line character will not be considered. Okay. So this is how list, when you have multiple lines of text taken from various input sources and store them in a list, then you can pass that list, entire list, with a single line of statement using the write lines method as this one. But if you use write method and if you want to pass all these strings, then you need to type that entire string as a parameter here, or you need to store that complete thing in a string variable, right? So even if you store it in a string variable also, you need to write that entire string in your program. So to avoid that, you can go for write lines method, which will allow you to pass both strings as well as uh, a list of items that can be written into the file. So that is the difference between write function and write lines function. And you need to observe one important point here. When you are writing content, each time I write the content again and again, the previous data is being erased. You have observed or not, right? So what do you understand from that? The write method will open the file and erase the previous content. If the file is already existing, then it will open the file in write mode, and if the content is there already in that file, the content will be erased by the new content that you write into that file. So the old content will be erased and new content will be written. So that is the problem with write method. So if you want to allow the old content to remain as it is and add new content to your file, then you have to open the file in append mode, which is nothing but a. So if you use a mode here, then you can do that one, right? So we'll see that append mode later in another program. First, now we'll see read operation. See, to open a file in read mode, what you need to do, you need to use the same open function, but the mode must be specified as R. So what is this read method mode going to do? It is going to open the file if the file exists, and it is going to return a file object that will be stored in this f variable. So f will be referred, f will be used to refer to the file that you opened. So what is the file that you're specifying here? This is the file. So if the file is located in the same directory, then you need not give this complete path. You need not give this complete path, right? So where is our fread file, fread.py file, the current program, where it is stored? It is stored in the same directory, in files directory. So this is the uh, program fread.py. So from this is in which directory? In D drive there is a Python folder. In Python folder there is a files folder. In that files folder this is fread is there. And what file I am opening in that fread file? fwrite.py. So where is fwrite.py? This is also in the same directory. So if both the file from which you are opening another file and the file that you are opening, if both of them are in the same directory, then you need not give this complete path like this. You can directly specify the file name like this if both of them are in the same file. So this way of mentioning this file path, this is called as file path. This is called as file path, whatever you give as first parameter to this open function. Although we call it as file name, but that file name will have a path where it is located, its location and all, right? So we call it actually as a file path. This file path can be of two types. It can be absolute file path, or it can be relative file path. So now whatever file path we have used currently, simply using the file name, this is called as relative path. So relative path is nothing but from the current working directory to which directory you have to move, that only that part will be specified. You need not specify from the root directory. Okay, say for example, I am in Python directory. I want to, and my program fread.py file is located in Python directory, and from that file I want to open fwrite.py, and fwrite.py is in files directory. So currently I am in which directory? Python. So from this Python I have to move to files directory. So what is the relative path? I need not specify completely like this. d colon python colon python slash files like that. Instead, I can simply specify uh, a relative path to my file like this. Okay, I have to specify like this: files forward slash f right, because already my program is in which directory? Python directory. So till there I need not specify. From there, again, which folder I have to open? Another folder called files. So only from that I need to specify. So this is called as relative path. Or else you can specify the complete path like this. So if you specify the complete path, irrespective of whether you are in this files directory or you are in Python directory, if you are in Python directory, you need to specify only this part. If you specify only this part, then that is called as relative path. But even though you are in that Python directory, if you specify the complete path starting from d colon slash python slash files, all these things, then we call it as a absolute path. Okay. So for better understanding, let me give you one example. Say for example, you are traveling from Hyderabad to Bangalore. So the distance is around 600 kilometers. The distance between Hyderabad and Bangalore is around 600 kilometers. And in between, you'll pass through some other small towns and cities. Say you may pass through Kurnool city. After Hyderabad, when you start from Hyderabad, you'll pass through Kurnool, Anantapur, all these things, and then go to Bangalore. Say for example, so Hyderabad from Hyderabad, Kurnool is at a distance of 200 kilometers. Total distance between Hyderabad and Bangalore is 600. Out of which, when you travel up for 200 kilometers, you'll reach Kurnool. So what is the remaining distance? 400, right? So if you are asked to say, uh, when you are at Kurnool, if you are asked to say what is the remaining distance, what will you say? Will you say 400 kilometers, or will you say the total distance between Hyderabad and Bangalore as 600? So because it is 600, will you say it as 600? You will say only 400, right? So if you say 400, that is nothing but relative distance. This is called as relative distance. The total distance between Hyderabad and Bangalore is 600, but because already you have traveled 200 kilometers and reached a intermediate station called Kurnool, and still from there still you need to travel 400 kilometers. So you'll say only the remaining distance you need to travel. But what is the total distance? If you are asked to say, then you'll say 600. So 600 is like absolute path or absolute distance, whereas 400 is like a relative distance or relative path. So even in files also, uh, D is the source location. From there you want to open the file fwrite.py. Where is that file available? In files directory. So your destination will be files directory. So when you are traveling from D drive to files directory, you will pass through Python folder and then reach files folder. So if you are already in Python folder, which one you need to specify? Only the next folder you need to specify, that is files slash, and the file name is fwrite.py. You need not specify D, Python and all, right? So if you do that way, that is called as a relative path. And if you mention this complete thing, we call it as a absolute path. So it is up to you whether you want to use absolute path or relative path. It is up to you. Even if you use relative path also, it will work. When to use absolute path means when the file that you are opening is in a different directory, and which is not in the way, it is somewhere in a different path, right? Say for example, in the D drive, I'm in Python folder, right? Instead of Python folder, if I go to say Java folder, so if my file that I'm opening, uh, that I'm executing is in this folder, and I want to open a file which is in Python folder, and in Python you have another subfolder called files. So from there, if I want to open, can I give a relative path? I cannot give relative path. I need to give absolute path there in that case. So absolute path must be used only when you are opening that file from a different path folder. That means the file that you are opening and the file from which you are opening. If both are not in the same path, then you have to go for absolute path. If both of them are in the same path, then you can go for relative path or relative address. Okay, so that is how you need to use this relative path or absolute path in your program when you are opening a file or even writing a file also. Writing a file, if the file does not exist, then it will be created, there is no problem. But for when you are opening a file, you will not be writing that, you will be opening only existing a file. That means definitely the file must be existing to open a file in read mode. You cannot open a file which is not existing. That is not the case with write mode, right? In a write mode, if the file is not existing, a new file will be created and then opened. But in read mode, to open the file in read mode, definitely that file must be existing only. If it is not existing, new file will not be created, because read mode, opening a read file in read mode is for what purpose? To read the content stored in that file. If the file itself is not there, and now if you are creating a new file, will there be any content to read from that file? It is a new file, right? Just created, so there will not be any content to read from it. Then what is the use of opening that file in read mode by creating a new file? There is no use, right? So that's the reason why in order for opening a file in read mode, you need to that means the file that you are opening must be already created and available in the directory that you are mentioning, the path that you are mentioning. If it is not there, then this will generate an error for you. Say instead of f write dot py, if I'll write simply write dot py, there is no file called write dot py, then I'll get an error. So we'll see after running this program by making changes to the program in that way. uh, so as of now, you understood how to open the file in read mode. So now I'm displaying a message reading file contents using read function. So I'm using fread function, f dot read function. You have to use the file object f dot call the method read. So what is this read method going to do is, it is going to read uh, complete content of the file and return that content in the form of a string. So that string will be stored in this s1 variable, and if you print that s1 variable, automatically the full content will be displayed. But this read function can be passed with a parameter, say 5. If I pass integer value 5, you can pass only integer or no parameter. If you pass 5, then it will read only 5 characters, up to 5 characters. If you pass 10, it will read the first 10 characters. If you pass 100, then it will read first 100 characters. If you don't pass any value to this, then it will read the complete file. Okay, so this print statement will print the complete file content here. Then after that, I am calling a function called seek using the file object f.seek 0. What is this seek function going to do is, because you have read the content using read function earlier, the file pointer will be pointing to the end of the file. So there will be a file pointer when you are reading a file or writing a file object that is created, from where it will start writing or reading. It will be starting to read from the beginning of the file, right? And as and when you read each and every character, the file pointer will automatically be incremented and be pointing to the next character in the file. So because you have already read the file by using the read function earlier, now where is that file pointer being pointed to? It will be pointing to the last character in the file. So now again, if you want to start reading from the beginning, first you need to set that file pointer pointing to the first character of the file again. So to do that, you have a function called seek function, and you need to specify 0 for this one as parameter. Then it will be pointing to the beginning of the file. Okay, then now I'm printing a message again, printing file contents using reading file contents using read n. So earlier we have called the read function without any parameter, which will read the complete file. Now I'm passing n as parameter, where n is nothing but an integer value which specifies the number of characters that I want to read from the file from the beginning of the file. So I'm printing f dot read of 10. So it will read only the first 10 characters of the file. Then again, I need to set the file pointer pointing to the beginning of the file. So I'll do it by calling the seek function and passing 0 as parameter to it. Then I'm displaying a message read line. There are three different functions for reading, right? Read line and read lines. Read will be of two versions, with one with no parameter, one with integer parameter, where integer parameter is nothing but the number of characters that you want to read from the beginning of the file, right? So it is not actually beginning, but wherever the current file pointer is pointing, from there it will read that many characters. So now I'm using readline function and passing n, that is 2. So what is readline function going to do? What did I specify? Readline, it will read one line, right? So if I pass 2, it will read 2 lines. So now again I have to bring back the file pointer pointing to the beginning of the file. So if I want to read from the beginning of the file, so again now I'm displaying a message simply read line. This time also I'm passing read line of 2. But look at the, sorry, this must not be 0. This, I'll not pass anything here, or I'll pass here 2 and I'll not pass anything here. So this will read only one line. Then again I'm setting the pointer to point to the beginning of the file and reading the content using readlines function. So this readlines function will read all the lines of the file. So let us run this program and see the output, then you'll understand better. So the file that we opened is fwrite.py, the file that we created earlier. So this is fwrite.py. Okay. First, reading file contents using read. So how many lines are read till here? All the lines that are there in that file are read by using simple read function in our uh, fread.py file, right? Because we are not passing any parameter to the read function, it will read all the characters in the file. So it has read all the characters and displayed as it is on the screen. Then I am reading file content using read of n. So how many parameters I am specifying? I am specifying 10 characters, right?